It's so incredible because injuries that other than can heal is an absolute indication that the body is not processing food properly and there is inflammation in the intestinal tract. When an injury won't really heal, it is because food has been escaping from the intestine into the blood, and the blood is laden with material. Now, when somebody gets injured and it hasn't really healed properly, it is because there was material in the blood and it bled out into that space. And then the body was not able to clear it properly. You see, we're not really meant to have toast in the blood, sort of thing, you know. But if people have got beans and rice and eggs and cheese, you know, milk protein and things like that, that is in the blood. It's so amazing, Luke, because when I was looking at blood, I'd just look at the average person on the street, look at their blood, and it was just like a trash heap, honest to God, trash heap. There was mold, fungus and yeast and bacteria wriggling. There was blood all different sizes and things, you know, shaped and clumped, and uric acid and gallic acid and acetic acid and cholesterol crystals. You know, I saw oxalate sort of crystals and things. It was just an honest to God trash heap, really. So now, you know, that's the average person. Gosh, if that average person gets sort of injured on an average diet, there, you know, it might not necessarily heal up so well. But there's various things you can do to assist to help heal things up. And most people are eating way too much protein. They really are. And then it robs the protein vitamin from their body, which is pyridoxine, B6. B6 is very important to be able to heal up all the tendons and ligaments and sheathing and things like that, you know. And then you need zinc and magnesium. And where are you going to get that? Most of those foods that people are eating, it just robs it, just creates a bushfire for those things, you know. And pharmaceutical grade stuff's not going to put that back. That's just junk. That's just analogues. That's not the real thing at all. Got to go to nature to get some of these things to assist, and one's got to change their ways a bit, you know. But there's so many things they could do to assist to help turn something around that hasn't healed. And I know injuries that somebody hadn't healed, sports injuries and things like that, where there were bone spurs and stuff, where a person could have very little range of motion, completely healed up after, you know, a year's worth of sort of changing of the diet and exercise. But I know somebody had an injury like that, sports injury, for 20 years. So I know injuries can heal up, but you just got to, it's like a building project. If all the window frames had arrived, but the studs hadn't arrived, gee, what are you going to do with the window frames? You can't put them up, can you? You've got to put the studs up first, and then you can put the window frames up. Like the body. Body sometimes has got to have silica, got to have the all the vitamin C like properties and things, and sulfur and things to, you know, to be able to heal up. But most people are not getting that, are they? MSM. Most people have heard about that. It's touted as a cure-all, right? But it's not. But it's so involved in so many things. It's so useful, especially for people in sports, because it's the sixth major element in the sixth element in the body, and it can easily be applied, biologically transmutated into many other things. It's so involved in element for building of the body and this sort of a thing, and it's supposed to come in food if it were watered by rain. Now, is most food watered by rain? No, it's not. So where are you getting your MSM, huh? Where are you getting it? No, you're not getting it. So how are you going to heal if you don't have MSM? The food that comes from the breast, the first days of life, is full of MSM. Got to make you wonder about the importance of it, huh? Circulation and things, and assisting to people have got to put natural things on a wound, and they've got to do things like, you know, bring in little horse chestnut and things to assist to help cement things after a contusion, to assist to stop, you know, the injury from bleeding out more. You've got to really do what you can to put some cold on it initially, perhaps if it's a contusion, to stop the bleeding and reduce the swelling. and you know, and once it's sealed, then it's possible to start to lymphocyze. And if you lymphocyze, that's very, very important to assist to help heal. But a body also has got to really go through its proper range of motion. You know what I mean? People who get injured, they didn't move their shoulder, and it's like, well, gee, you got to start moving your shoulder, and you got to start moving it back into the position where it was, and things. And you didn't bend your legs. You got really tight biceps. Quadricep muscles, which is very common. And then how can any back injury really heal if the leg muscles are tight? You know what I mean? But if you've got lengthen your leg muscles and lengthen these quadricep muscles and your biceps femoris muscles behind your legs, your hamstrings, and that can take a lot of pressure off the small of the back to assist with the injury. Preventative types of things should be always, because a lot of people are practicing things and they're moving violently, you know what I mean? They're taking the body through steps which it might not ordinarily really go through. And, you know, there's a certain amount of fitness to do that. And then one has to stay within a relative realm of their physiological capacity. You know, if they're going beyond that, injury occurs. One has studies show that when somebody really has a cool in the things they do, they really are more inside and they're aware. Whereas when somebody's not, they're outside and they're not really aware. You know, it's like, you know, somebody else is driving the bus, sort of thing. You know, person who's cool, they're in there, they're driving the bus, and food can either allow a person to kind of be more cool, and the less you eat, sort of, when you're injured, the better. I mean, an animal when it's injured doesn't really eat much at all, does it? You know, it doesn't even drink anything. And what do human beings do? God help us, they're just like chowing down on things and they're stuffing their faces when they're sick. But like, I think that's too good, isn't it? You know, could be a bit of a secret teaching you'd be letting people know about. You know what I mean? Zinc and sea vegetable are so amazing. Marine minerals. It's got these monatomic elements in it, which is quite superconduction. You can only have healing in the body if you have these superconductive elements like rhodium, ruthenium, osminium, you know, all of these larger elements that were split in half, and very unusual elements that are involved in superconduction in the body, and they are the ones that actually really assist to help heal. And 5% of the dry weight of the brain is supposed to be these monatomic elements, which is very little in the food, but many of the herbal formulas and things that we work with have these monatomic elements in it. It's really amazing. And then you've got to have niacin and thiamine and riboflavin and things, which if you don't have proper intestinal flora and stuff and good bile flow, they're not going to really be able to heal well. If you get more bile flow, that's very important. If people are getting more bile flow, they're tuning into the work you're doing, they can have more glutathione peroxidase, GSH. And GSH is the primary free radical scavenger in the body, and it really assists the brain, and it causes people to really keep their cool, and they don't bruise. And like, I mean, I don't know that people would have to know that we take you out 2-3 times a week and flog you seriously, and we've done that 60 or 70 times so that you don't bruise at all, right? And we flog you so hard that the person's arm, we have to use somebody who's a good arm, you know. And we do everything that we can to flog Lukey as much as we can to see if somebody could just lead him away by the hand, but he's always just like bats an eyelid afterward. But you know, you're fortifying your body more, and you're preparing your body more. Some people can not bruise at all. You know what I mean? It's just like they just don't bruise, you know. Whereas other people, you tap them and it's like, Jesus, it's like a serious freaking bruise. It's various things that persons eat. There's no if you're bringing in vitamin K, that's going to be very helpful. You know, learn what vitamin K is. Learn what vitamin U is. I recommend to the people that are tuning in or listening or reading, you know, what you're writing, that they would learn about live food, and it's a new paradigm, you know, and that can assist the body heal enormously more faster, you know. But anyway, there's so many more things we could talk about actually healing, which in the past it used to be rest, ice. It used to be rest, ice, compression and elevation, and now it's movement, ice, compression and elevation, right? You're not resting your injury anymore, you're moving it. And you're moving it within the comfort that you can, and you're putting your biomechanical stress back on it and things like that within your comfort relatively, because as you do this, you lymphocyze and you really are assisting to help your injury heal. And now all movements, they should be dynamic, should let go this isolating type of stuff, because the body's all meant to kind of work as one unit, and all the muscles are meant to work together, not just one by itself. You know, you never see a bull or a buffalo or a lizard or anything, getting ready to do something, and it's sort of like, it's going through them, it's warming up, it's like bull's ass, it's ready to go. You know what I mean? There's no such mental set. It's like, okay, now wait a minute, I've got to warm up before I'm going to be ready. It's like, no. The animal's there, it's ready. It's like, there's no such thing as to be ready for something. No. It's instantaneous. It's a thousandth of a second. There's no delay because of thinking, you see. And you look into the eyes of an animal, you really can see this, and it's definitely not, if it's a domesticated animal, it's definitely not the eyes of the owner, you know what I mean? It's another pair of eyes, and it's these eyes you want to really occupy. But if you're eating more live food, life begets life, and dead begets dead. You know what I mean? Bring in life, you're going to heal up more. Bring in life, you're going to have a greater sense of ease of things. You're going to be more inside about what you're doing and that, so that you have prevention, and that you're also thinking of nutrition in terms of prevention to assist to help with injuries, and persons are doing what they can to avoid injury, and they're doing what they can to develop tactical positioning. And I might let our readers know that, not giving anything away, but Lukey is probably one of the more tactical types of athletes that I've ever met in my life. And it's so incredible that as I've sat and talked to him, he told me one day 12 strategies that he could use just in an instant, and he could pick any one of those, and I was just absolutely shocked, because I was just thinking, there might be just sort of one sort of thing to do, but then all of a sudden I realised, here's Luke and he's using paradox. Oh my God. You see, one, as they can keep their collect, it's possible really to be able to have a tactical position where a conflict within a person could be changed toward really healing and doing the right thing with food and things, and modelling excellence and doing things in a way that we have a sustainable future, which this is what live food is, and lymphocyzing probably, and learning about lymphocyzing is probably one of the really greatest things, and some deep tissue body work, reconstructive body work to assist to help heal. And then what about hydrotherapy? I mean, a lot of people, they've got the exercise down, they've got the nutrition down, but are they really doing any cleansing at all? I mean, why not do some hydrotherapy? Take somebody in there and they can only stand up in the heat for like 6 or 10 minutes, have them go there for like 2-3 weeks, and next thing you know, they're standing up in the heat and they can stand up there for half an hour, 40 minutes. You see what's happened? See, a fortification has occurred. Pour a bucket of cold water on the person's head and they get brain freeze. Yeah, good. Keep pouring until, and you notice that 10 buckets later, after like 26 weeks, and they can put 10 buckets of the ice cold water on the person's head and they don't get brain freeze. It's like there's a fitness that's developed. Somebody, put them in a cold creek bed of water in the winter, and they can't stand it. You know what I mean? They'd be sick for weeks. But we could throw you in a dam somewhere in the iciest, coldest water, and you'd probably be quick smart out of there, and you'd be okay. You know what I mean? It's just, you've got to build up also a hydrotherapy fitness, and you build up a magnetic electric threshold, sort of like more blade-proof yourself sort of thing. And it's just like something that's got a real tensile strength, and you could drag it around on the concrete for 2 or 3 miles and it just really wouldn't even put a few scratches in it, whereas something else would be just completely worn through. It's sort of a bit like that. Yeah. But anyway, I would really recommend that people should do what they can to clear away all of the debris that they have around their waist, and do what they can to kind of start to say no to harmful things more, and they can really assist to help heal things up. And I would say any injury is possible that can be healed, and a person just might yet to have learned how to do this. But I would think first, hey, read this, what you hear, and have a true healing therapeutic happen to you. Have, just as a result of you listening or reading this, have a healing, because you can know it can be healed up.
It's like a personal lecture. It's amazing. Is there a recipe maybe I can pull out of the Life of Recipe book that I think would be good to go along with this?
Oh, unbelievable. The cilantro. Anything with cilantro in is amazing. The electrolyte lemonade, that's unbelievable. If people, I mean, they should really have that because it's got a lot of vitamin K in it. And then anything that has the succulent sesame seed salad, whew, that's amazing. And then the ginger sesame tahini sauce, like, whoa, that's incredible. That's unbelievable. And then things that are made with cabbage blended and cabbage juiced is also incredible. Vitamin U, really, really wonderful to help people heal. Has all these elements in it we've been talking about: zinc and vitamin K and vitamin C and vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin D,